Before we begin, this story contains descriptions of a mass casualty disaster and details of a rescue operation. If that's something you need to step away from, we understand. Take care of yourself first. This episode's narration is AI-generated. The research, writing, and editorial decisions behind every story are made with care for accuracy and respect for those involved. Early 1979. Somewhere in Missouri, a phone rings. On one end, a steel fabricator with a question about how to simplify a tricky welding job. On the other, an engineer who says yes. The conversation lasts less than 10 minutes. No paperwork, no formal review, no load calculation. That phone call killed 114 people. You're listening to the Unlit Room. Every story in here actually happened. That's the part that should scare you. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Today, a design change so minor it was approved in a phone call, and so deadly it became the worst structural collapse in American history. November 1980. The Hyatt Regency Kansas City opens its doors. It's a 40-story hotel with a 4-story glass-roofed atrium, the crown jewel of downtown revitalization. Inside, 2 suspended walkways span the open plaza at the 2nd and 4th floor levels, hanging from threaded steel hanger rods anchored in the ceiling. Guests can stand on the skywalks and look down at the lobby below. Cocktail bar, live music. The kind of space designed to feel like a sunlit European arcade transplanted into downtown Missouri. The hotel becomes known for its weekly tea dance. Every Friday evening, the atrium fills with people. July 17, 1981 is no different. 7 p.m. The dance is in full swing. Approximately 1,600 people pack the atrium. Dozens stand on the 4th floor and 2nd floor walkways, leaning on the railings, watching the dancers below. A local TV news crew has set up near the bar. They're filming a Friday night feature segment. The band's amplifiers sit on the lobby floor. A bartender wipes the counter, glancing up at the crowd on the platforms overhead. The walkways are designed to hold people. That's their entire purpose. The box beams, long welded steel channels that form the spine of each platform, hang from hanger rods descending from ceiling anchor points. Threaded steel, secured by nuts, the only things keeping both walkways in the air. At 7:05 p.m., the 4th floor walkway drops. No creak, no groan, no visible warning. The box beam connection releases. The 4th floor walkway falls onto the 2nd floor walkway directly below. Both drop together onto the dance floor in less than 2 seconds. The TV camera captures the moment. Survivors describe a sound like a rifle shot, then a low roar, then a rush of air as the platforms fell. Hundreds of tons of concrete-decked steel pancake onto the lobby floor. The crumpled beam stretches the full width of the atrium, pinning everyone who had been standing on or near the walkways. Broken glass from the roof cascades down with the wreckage. The band's equipment disappears under rubble. Concrete dust fills the air. Rescue workers and bystanders dig by hand in the first minutes before equipment arrives. Flashlight beams cut through the dust. Surgeons from a nearby hospital arrive and perform field amputations through the night to free survivors pinned under the beam. The all-night rescue operation ends at dawn. Final toll: 114 dead, 216 injured. The deadliest structural collapse in United States history to that date. Kansas City is a city built on bridges and rail. Engineering runs through its bones: stockyards, grain elevators, construction booms. The Hyatt Regency wasn't some experimental design in an unfamiliar market. It was hometown infrastructure. A Friday night dance in a downtown hotel, the kind of place where the worst thing that's supposed to happen is a spilled drink. Micro Cliffhanger 1. By February 1982, the National Bureau of Standards releases its investigation report. What they find isn't just an engineering failure. It's a failure so subtle it had been sitting in plain sight since construction. Approved, certified, and missed by everyone. The investigators go back to the drawings. Original design: a single continuous threaded rod descending from the ceiling through both box beams. The rod passes through the 4th floor beam, continues down, passes through the 2nd floor beam, secured by a nut at each level. In that configuration, each beam's nut bears only the weight of its own walkway section. Early 1979, more than 2 years before the collapse, Havens Steel contacts the engineering firm Gillam Co. Co. The fabricator has a problem. Threading a single rod, the full 4-story height of the atrium, is impractical. Can the design be changed to 2 shorter rods? One from ceiling to 4th floor, another from 4th floor to 2nd floor. The engineering firm approves the change, by phone. No formal sign-off document is generated. No revised load calculation is performed. The change is treated as a construction convenience, not a structural revision. Here's what that change actually did. In the revised design, the rod is split in 2. The upper rod's lower end terminates inside the 4th floor box beam. A separate lower rod hangs from that same box beam down to the 2nd floor. On paper, it still looks like 2 rods and 2 walkways. The only difference is where one rod ends and the next begins. But in the revised design, the 4th floor box beam nut must support the weight of both walkways, not just one. The load at that connection doubles. Nobody checked. Nobody recalculated. The phone call approval went through and construction continued. There's a kind of failure that doesn't look like failure until it detonates. The 2-rod configuration passed inspection. The walkways opened to the public. 16 months went by. Thousands of guests walked those platforms without incident. And every single one of those days, the 4th floor connection was carrying roughly twice the load it was designed to bear. Micro cliffhanger 2. But the investigators weren't finished, because the design change wasn't even the first problem. The National Bureau of Standards runs the numbers on the original single-rod design, the one that was in place before the phone call, before the fabrication shortcut, before anyone suggested splitting the rod in 2. That original design was only about 60% of the load capacity required by Kansas City Building Code. The walkways were under-designed from the start. The design change didn't introduce a flaw into a safe structure. It accelerated the failure of a structure that had already been approved while below standard. The collapse wasn't a single aberration. It was the logical result of a design and review process with no adequate safeguard at any stage. The original configuration might have held longer. It might have failed later. But it was never safe, and the formal review process that should have caught both failures, original and revised, had no mechanism to flag undocumented phone call approvals. November 14th, 1985. The Missouri Board of Architects, Professional Engineers, and Land Surveyors revokes the professional licenses of Jack Gillam and Daniel Duncan, the engineers who approved the change. Civil lawsuits settle for more than $140 million total between 1983 and 1987. No one is criminally charged. Not the engineers. Not the fabricator, not the contractors. Not the inspectors who certified a design that was 60% of code from day one. The system designed to assign accountability had no mechanism for the kind of failure that actually occurred. A phone call, a convenience. A shortcut that didn't look like a shortcut because it still used 2 rods and 2 walkways and threaded steel. Just in a different order. 114 people went to a Friday night dance and never came home. Not because someone built a bridge out of cardboard, not because a contractor cut corners on materials, but because a routine fabrication question got a routine answer, and nobody ran the numbers. Approved and safe are not synonyms. The most dangerous engineering decision is the one that doesn't feel like a decision. The walkways didn't fail because someone ignored a warning. They failed because the warning was built into the structure from the beginning. Certified, documented, and invisible until the night it wasn't. The phone call that killed 114 people lasted less than 10 minutes. It left no paper trail, and the formal answer to who is criminally responsible remained legally unanswerable. If this one kept you up tonight, good. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Subscribe so the next one finds you too. Follow the Unlit Room wherever you listen. Tell a friend who can't sleep. Full story on the main channel. Follow if you're wide awake. That was the Unlit Room. See you in the dark.